Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning into my channel. I've been doing a lot of cooking at home and I wanted to share what a day looks like with me. I hope you guys like this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We're going to start off with breakfast, and today I decided to make croissant. So I'm going to be filling my croissants with hazelnut spread. I'm using the Lindt hazelnut spread. I'm also going to be using some raspberry jam, and I'm going to be using the raspberry jam for Bon Mama. I could have made my croissants from scratch, but I decided to use the Pillsbury pre-made dough, and this is the one with 33% less fat. So we're just going to get that out of the box. It gets you about 8 croissants. We just roll out the dough, and what's really cool about this dough is that it's already cut out for you, so you just need to detach it with your fingers and roll it as you please. So I just put some chocolate spread and I made sure to spread it all over. If you have a chocolate bar, you can also just use that. Once the chocolate was spread, I just rolled the dough and it just naturally makes the croissant shape. I also did the same thing with the raspberry jam. Once all the dough was rolled into the croissants, I just placed them on my baking tray that was lined with parchment paper, and I baked everything in the oven at 325 for about 8 to 10 minutes. So my croissants came out looking perfect. They were all nice and soft and warm, and they smelled delicious. I was so excited because I had never made them with anything inside, so I was expecting the jam to spill out a bit, but nevertheless it all came out perfect. So that's what I had for breakfast. So I had 2 croissants, half a grapefruit, and I had a cup of coffee. Because I have my breakfast a bit late, I always have a very light lunch. It's usually more so like a snack. So I literally had 8 shrimp left in my freezer. So I defrosted my shrimp and then I removed the skin, and the shrimp already came deveined, so that was a step I didn't have to complete. So I was planning on making camarones al ajillo. So that's basically garlic shrimp. First step is just to peel the skin from the shrimp, and then I just added seasoning. So I added some adobo, I also added some chili flakes, some paprika, then salt and pepper to taste. Mixed all of that up. So I cooked the shrimp in a pot. It's at medium heat. Well, the first thing I did is I added some oil. So I sprayed some coconut oil. Then I added 1 clove of garlic that was grated. Once the garlic was brown, I just added my seasoned shrimp. So I kept mixing the shrimp until the garlic was all over the shrimp. Made sure that everything was cooked, and then I added about a 1/4 cup of cooking white wine. So I just kept mixing that until the wine fully deglazed the pot, and then I just made sure that the shrimp was fully coated with the wine. Next thing I did was heat up some tortillas. I heat up 2 tortillas. I'm using my pan here because my comal looks awful. So yeah, I just heated up the tortillas until they were nice and warm and malleable and fully cooked, and then I took it off. Once the tortillas were ready, I just added some curtito, and this curtito was not made by me. What actually happened was that Luis purchased some pupusas a couple of days ago, and there was some leftover curtito, and curtito is basically pickled cabbage, pickled vegetables, but this one has cabbage and carrots. So I placed the cortito on the tortilla and then I added my shrimp. So like I said, I had exactly 8. So each tortilla had exactly 4 pieces of shrimp. So that's my lunch, and I had that with a glass of Jamaica, also known as sorrel, also known as bisap, also known as zobo, also known as folere. I think those are all the names of the drink that I know. And yeah, that was my lunch. It was a quick and simple lunch. Took me about 5 minutes to make all of it, and it was delicious. I basically started prepping for my dinner while I was making my lunch, and the first thing I did was make épices, and épices is basically Haitian green seasoning. It's actually pretty much the same as the Cameroonian épices, that Cameroonian green seasoning that I make usually. I just wanted to try something different, but I ended up with something basically similar. So for épices, the first thing that you will do is you will add some garlic. I use 3 cloves of garlic, half a cup of onion, about half a green bell pepper. I used about a tablespoon of ginger. I also added some cilantro, and for the cilantro I literally just cut a bunch and just poured that in. I also added a bunch of parsley, and then I cut also a bunch of green onions. Then I added a 1/4 cup of olive oil. I then added salt to taste, black pepper to taste, and some Maggi cubes. So I added 2 Maggi cubes, and these Maggi cubes were so hard, but I was able to crush them with my fingers. So I just went ahead and blended that up, and I made sure that everything was fully incorporated. You can see that halfway through I basically opened the blender to just make sure that everything that was hanging on the sides just went straight inside. So just did that, and I kept on blending. I actually ended up with quite a lot of this green seasoning. So what I usually do, you can see that it looks a bit white, but that's only because I use frozen onions. What I did was that I transferred that to a container, and what I'll usually do is, so I used the amount that I needed for my chicken. I went ahead and I topped up the container with some olive oil to just stop it from browning. I'm going to be butterflying my chicken. So I love to use kitchen scissors because it just makes everything so much more easier. What I did was that I cut the chicken butt. You can't see it, but I did that. And then I also cut all of the extra fat on the side. So I had already washed my chicken. So I washed my chicken with lemon and vinegar. So I went ahead and I cut the excess fat out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to butterfly my chicken. So people, most of the time, they cut the back in half. I actually prefer to cut the breast in half, just because when you cut the breast in half, it actually makes the chicken lie even flatter, and when it's even flatter, it cooks faster. So that's basically what I did. I opened up my chicken and then I seasoned it with my green seasoning. I rubbed some extra salt and pepper on the chicken before adding my green spice. But yeah. I swear massaging the seasoning onto the chicken is so therapeutic. It was like one of my favorite things to do. So like I said, I prepared my chicken in the afternoon. So this was what we're going to eat for dinner, and I started preparing it around 2. What I did was that I placed the chicken on the serving tray and I covered it in aluminum foil and I let it rest in my fridge so that the seasoning will penetrate the meat. So to accompany my chicken, I made some couscous. By the time I started making my couscous, it was already around 6, so I had put my chicken in the oven. I went ahead and diced some vegetables. So I diced a quarter of a green pepper, a quarter of a red pepper, I diced about a quarter of a white onion, and then I also diced about a quarter of an English cucumber. So usually I would also add some feta, but I did not have any feta. I did, however, add a little bit of a parsley. So once I had all my veggies chopped, I moved over to the couscous. So I made my couscous the only way I know how. So this is with 1 cup of couscous and a cup and a half of chicken stock. I also added some Maggi and I added some salt and pepper. I mixed the grains and the chicken stock to just make sure that it was everywhere. And then I covered it with a plate for about 5 to 6 minutes. And once I removed the plate, the couscous was nice and cooked. It was very fluffy. Some people add butter at this stage, but I don't. So I just mixed the couscous up a bit, and then I added in my vegetables. So this is a couscous salad that I made. Just mix all the vegetables right in, and that was basically my side dish. So I also made some plantain. I made some plantain in the air fryer, and I made some white rice for my yenli. So this is basically what my chicken looked like once it came out of the oven, and it was so tender and juicy. So here's a look of everything I made. So here is my dinner. It actually looked so pretty. I didn't even want to eat it. So yeah, that was basically everything I ate. The only thing I did not include here was my chocolate jello that I had. I hope you guys liked this video. As usual, all the ingredients are going to be in the description box. If you guys want to see more videos like this, let me know in the comment section. Bye.